So this is my end of year roundup, where I do my favourite books of the year, my top 10 as twere. But right off the bat, I am going to be slightly cheating with this because I can't do a top 10. I can't do a top 10 of the books this year because I've read far too many. So I'm splitting it slightly. I'm doing a top 10 books released this year and then a top 10 of separately top 10 books that I've read this year that weren't necessarily out this year. And I'm also cheating because I am not going to order them. I will say my favourite book and then all of the rest are like the same, if that makes sense, because I looked at this list and the books change every day of which one I love more. So basically I loved every single book on these lists, and I just can't put them from 1 to 10. So there is a top book, top 2 books maybe, and then everything else is just as good underneath. Okay, enough waffling. So I'm going to do the top 10 books I've read this year but that weren't out this year first, and I'll save my number 1 for last. Okay, so in no particular order, Those Who Came Before by J.H. Moncrieff, absolutely fantastic. Wolfland by Jonathan Janz, Blood and Rain by Glenn Rolfe, Slash by Hunter Shea, The Hunger by Alma Katsu, Switch House by Tim Meyer, Odd Man Out, James Newman, Kill River, Cameron Rabique, and Video Night by Adam Caesar. So all of those I read this year, all were 5-star, all were fantastic, and all can count as like number 2 of the books that I read. And then the book that pipped them to the post of the number 1 book I read this year that wasn't out this year is this, which won't come as any surprise because everybody knows I absolutely adore Cameron. But although there may be a little bit of bias, this book is absolutely perfection. I've talked about it loads of times. We did an ode to Autumn Crow for its book birthday, and I've given it a 5-star review in Screen Magazine. It is just 90s Eriana point horror goosebump perfection, and I absolutely love everything about it, and I cannot wait for Cam to come up with some more bits and pieces within the world of Autumn Crow. So this is my number 1 book of the year that wasn't released this year. Okay, just before I do my top 10 of this year, I'm going to do a few shout outs for anthologies that I've really enjoyed this year. The ones that I have been lucky enough to appear in, Graveyard Smash from Candisha Press, Diabolica Britannica, the NHS one that we did, 25 Gates of Hell that Rookie put together, all of those have been absolutely amazing. The Midnight in the Pentagram is the latest one from Silver Shamrock, which I've only read a few so far, but the ones I've read have been fantastic. The Alien Agenda sampler that I'm in, that Glenn's put out through Alien Agenda Publishing, is absolutely wonderful. And also the Survive With Me anthology that he's also put out as his charity one, perfection. But my number 1 anthology was this one, Leaders of the Pack, which is a werewolf anthology, so that won't be any surprise because I love me some lichens. This was put out by Horrific Tales, the publishing company that my friend Graham Reynolds owns, and Glenn Rolfe and Jonathan Janz, amongst a whole plethora of other amazing writers, have stories in this, but it is Glenn and Jonathan's stories that really stood out for me, especially Glenn's, which is, I would say, one of the best short werewolf stories that I've ever read, and is part of the Blood and Rain universe, which is why I loved it so much. So quick shout out for this one, best anthology of the year. Okay, I've just realised that I've actually got having a top 2 books on this one, and I only grabbed one of them, so I will do a quick transition in a minute and grab the other book off the shelf, and no one will even notice, will they? No. Okay, so these are, again, no particular order, but the best books I have read this year, all 5-star obviously, that were published and released this year. Okay, so no particular order. The Raven by Jonathan Janz. Now, when I did a kind of a mid-year roundup, I actually put that at number 1, and there's nothing has made me bring it down to a nominal number 2 along with the rest of them. It's just that the more I thought about it, there were 2 books that were just, I enjoyed ever so slightly more, so that's the reason why that's just dipped a bit. Anyway, A Tomb of Gods by Brian Morlan, absolutely fantastic. Voodoo Heart by John Everson, Devil's Creek by Todd Kiesling, Magpie Coffin, Wiley E. Young, Clown in a Cornfield, which was another one of my Scream reviews, by Adam Caesar, Salt Blood, that is a newer one which I absolutely adored, by T.C. Parker, and then actually one that has just snuck in because it was so good, and I've just done a buddy review with the wonderful Ben Long, and that is Tome by Ross Jeffrey, and that has most definitely earned its place within my top 10 of the year. Okay, so if you know me, then you'll know that there are 2 books which are missing from that list. So one over here, which I just need to grab. Smoothly done. Okay, so it will be absolutely no shocker to learn that my joint 2 favourite books of the entire year are these. So Until Summer Comes Around by Glenn Rolfe and Misfits from Hunter Shea. I've done full reviews of both of these for various platforms. I was on their official blog tours via Flame Tree. I've done interviews with them. I've got 5-star reviews over on Nightworms for both of them. So it wasn't going to be a surprise. And both of these guys are not only my favourite authors that I will read everything that they've got, but they are also 2 people that inspire me and influence my own writing, and are both really dear friends. And to be able to say that your own favourite writers are people that you are inspired by, but also that are almost mentors, that give you advice, but also friendship, it is just phenomenal. It really is. So if you don't know, Misfits is one of Hunter's creature features, but the particular creature in this is a melonhead, which live in Connecticut in the woods, and I have actually heard about them before, the legends. There's an episode of Last Podcast on the Left which goes all into the Melonhead legends. It is actually pretty interesting. This is set in the 90s, so there was all of those nostalgic feels. I was a teenager in the 90s, believe it or not. So this was just absolutely perfection, all of the grunge and all of that kind of thing. There's retribution in there. It says time for retribution after one of the main characters has something horrific happen to her, and it's pure Hunter Shea, with all of those character driven antics that go on, and then it just goes batshit crazy in the 3rd act, which is what we expect. And yeah, just absolutely loved it. It's obviously my joint book of the year, but it's also my favourite Shea that I've read so far. And I've read quite a lot of Hunter's stuff, obviously. And yeah, I loved it. And then this, Until Summer Comes Around, is basically perfection on paper. This has all of the vibes of The Lost Boys because it's set in the 80s, but if you go into it thinking it's just Glenn's version of The Lost Boys, then you would be totally wrong. Yes, it takes that kind of feels because it's set in the 80s, and it has vampires in it, and because Glenn is a musician, there's a lot of musical references and things like that, and it's set on the pier, which is like in Lost Boys, apart from different sides of the country, because this is Old Orchard Beach, which is up in Maine, and obviously that's where Glenn is, so there's a lot of it feels very natural, because he's talking about a real place that he's been to. Glenn's writing is just, well, there's a reason why he's my favourite author. He just sucks me in. You feel like you are a character in the book. You are part of this. You are there with Rocky and November the entire time. That's how it makes me feel. Glenn just manages to put the words on the paper, but they come to life. This could be a movie or a TV show quite easily. It's just perfection. Everything about it is just brilliant. It's coming of age. It's got what I call proper vampires in it. None of this Twilight shit or anything like that. These vampires do some bad stuff, and that's what vampires are supposed to do. Okay, so these two, no surprise, but utter, total perfection books of the year. It is the 18th of December. Shit, I don't even know. It's my kid's last day at school. 18th of December, I'm going to say. So there is time to still order these for Christmas presents if you need them, or if you get Amazon vouchers for Christmas. You know what to buy. Okay? I don't think anything's going to change for me in these last few days of December. I am currently reading something which is absolutely phenomenal that will be released next year, and I would be shocked if it didn't make my top 10, top 5 already, and that's having not even read the new releases from these guys which are coming out. But I'm not allowed to say anything else about it. But there we go. So for a year which has been extremely strange in so many ways, we have been blessed by so many good books, and I know that sounds like really creepy and cliche and all that kind of stuff, but I really do think it's true. Having been forced to be at home has made me do far more writing, far more reading, and become part of the BookTube community, a part of the horror community, which I'm so grateful for. So thank you to every single author who has put a book out this year. There were so many. I could have done like a top 100 easily, and there would have been just so many. If I haven't mentioned your book on here, but I may well have given it a 4 or 5 star review, it's just because this wasn't going to be a 45-minute video like some of them are. So thank you to anyone who has put a book out this year, and just well done to anybody who is writing and reading and enjoying books. And I hope you all have a wonderful Christmas and New Year, and let's hope 2021 is a lot less shit than 2020. Thank you. Bye.